your thought? What inspired you to do it?
When we opened downtown on Cookman at Market in the Middle, we saw that there was a very big divide between what was coming to Asbury and what was already here. And, my first instinct is to always lift up a community that I do business in, depending on what the community needs. And at that time, people needed jobs, people needed not to be scared of all this new business and, the bringing back of Asbury Park. I felt that I could be instrumental through what I do, food and beverage, to mend some disruption and to bring people together. So we started doing community meals. We partnered with Pat Sherman from Feeding Friends to do our holiday dinners. And then we started doing programs for the Boys and Girls Club, art programs, surfing programs, food programs. I feel like kids are a natural way to connect for the future. When you deal with kids, especially in a community like this, you see a generational gap between maybe their grandparents or great-grandparents and how they used to live. My father was born in the 1800s, so I understand that generational gap. That, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, they grew their own food, they sourced things differently, they dealt with community in a different way. And through Food for Thought, we felt we could be a collaborative force in that. We don't necessarily do a thing. We do collaborative programs with other nonprofits, and we help them raise money or raise awareness or just take something off their plate that they can't do that maybe we can rally some volunteers to do. Yeah, so this year, obviously with COVID, a lot of our existing programs got very sidetracked. We didn't do Easter meals in-house. We instead boxed up about 1,500 meals and brought them to different churches, and we did that through the Boys and Girls Club and through AP Dinner Table. The surf program obviously didn't happen this year either. We were going to embark on a collaboration with Summertime Surf to help us with that, but they were so busy, which was awesome because a lot of camps were closed. So those were two programs that were always in place. We did take on an art program with the Boys and Girls Club last year, where we did the cans on the beach and the lockers, and we were supposed to do that again, but the club didn't open that early. So, next year we will definitely go back into some of those programs, especially with the Boys and Girls Club, who I feel do a remarkable job in elevating all the different things that are available to kids in this community, whether it's water programs, art programs, music programs with Lake House Music Academy. I think their work has really grown here, and we love supporting that. My kids also engage in that club, so I think it's a great thing. We do work with, a lot of work with Interfaith Neighbors. So the Kula Cafe was a program that I founded with Roger and Paul from Interfaith. 15 years ago we started talking about that when we were up here. We were doing a soup program in the convention hall before it opened. We used to have a little cafe called the Soup, Kitschen, and you could come there and buy soup, or you could get free soup if you didn't have any money. And if you tipped, the person working donated their tips to the charity of their choice. So that was kind of a Kickstarter to grow into a real program, which we ended up doing with Interfaith on a truck on the west side that we would give out soup once a week. Then that grew into, why don't we do an actual cafe where we can train kids how to work in restaurants so that they can come and work in all these great restaurants in town. Because when we first started all this, 15, 18 years ago, it was really hard to get help from the community because people didn't necessarily go to restaurants like this. They didn't know how to work in them or eat in them, and I felt it was really important that we engage the community where they live and get jobs where they live and keep the footprint very local. So we started that program with Interfaith and opened the Kula Cafe, which then grew into the Kula Farm. They grow greens, microgreens, vegetables, flowers. They sell to the community, but they also sell to restaurants. So we buy all of our greens for our salad station are from Kula Cafe, and we take them to our other restaurants in other communities. So that's another program that teaches kids, maybe you don't want to work in a restaurant, maybe you don't want to be a cook or a bartender or a manager, maybe you want to work with your hands, maybe you want to work in the dirt, maybe you want to know where your food comes from. So I think that program has extended what we already did into something new and another viable job opportunity for people. And then out of that came the idea for a food truck. And Interfaith didn't want to take on a truck. They were already in an unknown territory with the food that they were doing. So Food for Thought took on this program to raise money for a truck. It's taken us a really long time because not only do I found and kind of oversee a nonprofit, but I oversee like 5 or 6 restaurants as well and don't have a lot of time. And I have twin 8-year-olds, so you add that to the mix. So the truck now is actually going to be worked on next week. So we have the truck. We bought Johnny Porkroll's other truck. He gave me a really good deal on it. We're going to make sure it runs properly. And then one of our board members is Pete from Blazing Visuals and Point. He's going to wrap it. And we are working on a program with Fulfill. So the original concept of the truck was to partner with nonprofits to support them in their charity efforts, whether they do a gala or they want the truck as a one-off to raise money, or the gas company, which is one of our sponsors, wants us to take it over there and have their employees buy lunch and then donate that to their charity of choice. So the first program that we're trying to activate, because of COVID, it's very complicated for us to do what we originally wanted to do, which was to just go out there full force and bring kids on a truck to learn how to work it, how to cook on it, how to engage in money and commerce and hospitality. Because one of the things I think our mission is, it's not about the specific program or the organization, but it's about teaching values and communication. So if you work in a restaurant and you wait tables or bartend, you get a skill set that you could take anywhere, even if you became a heart surgeon. You know, you learn how to talk to your team, you learn how to work with others, you learn how to make people feel good when they don't feel good, you know how to embrace them when they are feeling good. So I think the skill set that you get in hospitality is very valuable way of learning how to communicate. And we live in a really crazy world right now where communication is so distorted with social media and the press and the politics that having those communication skills is what I wanted to teach in Food for Thought. So when we go surfing, we do a little qigong and yoga on the beach, and we talk about recycling and the environment and the animals and the ocean and how to protect them. It's not just going and having fun, it's teaching stewardship of all the things that we're engaging in. So, you know, we work with a lot of partners. Those couple are the ones we work a lot with and are very close to home for us. But we are open to working with anybody who feels that our mission is aligned with what they're doing. Really challenging, the nonprofit world, for many reasons, and especially now because of what we're going through as a nation and a country and the funding. A lot of nonprofits are really struggling. We are lucky that we are so small and so not in need of money at the moment that we're fine. Most of our programs are grassroots, volunteer-based. We don't have an employee, you know, so we're this tiny little baby, but right now for us, that's okay. We don't have to struggle through that. Some of the bigger organizations are really, really hurting, and I'm hoping that through Food for Thought and the truck, we can start to help them raise money with what we do. And we do food and beverage, so it's natural for us to stay in that area that we know. And it also helps my team get excited about something, maybe have a job opportunity to run a truck or be involved with it that they didn't have last week. And when I'm starting to lay people off, maybe there's a movement over to the nonprofit side of our business. But for me, it's really, really tapping into one kid at a time and hoping to change them. And we have a lot of failures in what we do. It's very hard to change anybody in life, whether it's somebody from this community or any community. You know, we deal with people. People are challenging. And when you're not raised by the same parents, you have different views and different experiences that lead you along the way. And I can't stress enough how much the communication piece is important in that, because that's all it takes, is to be able to honestly communicate with each other and not hold it against each other because you come from something different, and help each other to learn lessons and grow. And I think we do that through Food for Thought when we engage with any youth in the community. And just like anything, if somebody doesn't want to be a part of that process, you're not going to help them. So you have to tap into the kids that are there to open themselves up for change and growth. And that's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing to see a kid come back in and say, I got this job, or I'm doing this thing, or I'm going to college, or I'm going to be a junior lifeguard because I got the bug in the surf class. You know, whatever it is, it's really special. It's just like customers in the restaurant when they really enjoy themselves and they tell you that. It feels great to help somebody feel good. Yeah, you never know somebody's story. I mean, in this community, I've met so many kids raised by so many great people. And I've met some kids that haven't been and have so many challenges. We all have something inside us that can change and grow and become better if we open ourselves up and don't let our emotions rule the roost in every conversation. I know we all get there. We all get defensive. We all have to take a step back, chill out for a minute, and then engage. And that's really hard to do, especially right now. Everybody is living in fear and pain and anger and not knowing what tomorrow's going to bring for your job, for the food on your table, for your mortgage or your rent or your kids. People look at me and they think I have all this stuff. I work 7 days a week, pretty much all year long, even when I'm off. Unfortunately, the cell phone has made it almost impossible to disengage from work. And, I grew up with nothing. My parents died when I was very young. I made my path, and what I was taught was to work really hard and to be fair and kind as much as you can in the conversation, and just keep going forward and have patience. And that's really tough to do when we live in a society that is instantaneous gratification and the ability to say whatever you want without having to be face to face with somebody. And it's a scary time to be a parent. It's a scary time to be a kid. And if we can understand that both sides of the equation are living a little bit in fear, maybe we can help each other. I started in the restaurant business when I was 12 on a stand in Bradley Beach working for my brother. And then I grew into my own restaurant by the time I was 18. And it was a very different world, our business. A lot less oversight restrictions, protocol, taxes, money, and I didn't get into it for the money. This is absolutely the worst business to be in if you want to be rich, unless you want to sell stuff out of a freezer and franchise or do mass-produced business. But that's not me. I do it because I enjoy being in it. I enjoy the creative aspect of it. And that right now I'm challenged with, because I'm not sure that that's the way this industry is going to go for a while. And I don't know how to live in that. You know, when your whole day is about rules and regulations and money all the time, it takes the wind out of your sails for your passion of just creating. The few moments I get to be in a kitchen are very delightful because I'm just making food and feeding people, but that's a very small part of what I do anymore. And I don't know how much longer I can continue. It's going to really depend on how the industry comes together after this, and where we, as a very powerful group of people in the country, in the world, we employ a lot of people, we create a lot of memories for people, we become the backbones of community. If all of this pushes us out of that into the world of technology and takeout, personally, it's not where I want to live, you know? Well, the best advice for me in my head is I pretend that I'm living next year. And I look back to today from next year and say, why did I waste my time worrying about that all day? Because I don't even remember what I was worrying about in that moment. In the big moment, yes, there's a lot of fear around that, but I think you have to take one step at a time, especially in a world right now where I feel like I'm a clown and I'm juggling balls and I don't know how to juggle and they just land and I have to pick them up and put them somewhere else and start over. And to do that, you know, there's tools, meditation. My kids and I do insight timer or calm before we go to bed. We put a meditation on, and I wake up in the morning and my phone's dead because it goes on and on and on, which is great because hopefully it was going on and on in my head and keeping that fear out of my head. You know, I love the sun and the ocean, and I go to the beach. I take my day off in half-hour increments. So it's not a day. I took a half hour today, an hour today, and I go in the ocean and I just feel that energy. I'm lucky enough in this particular venue to work right in front of it, and I feel it. I feel the energy from the sea. In Normandy, I'm across the street. At Whitechapel, we've created this beautiful outside area that's growing into this urban farm, so I get to feel that. So I'm trying to create environments even in a stressful time. You know, I've worked on my yard. I've done like 20-minute, half-hour increments of life for me. It's not a lot, but it helps. And you can't look at your life right now the way the media wants you to look at it. You know, I follow the protocol of what's happening in our world, but honestly, my main priority for myself and my kids and my husband is to keep us healthy, to make sure we take our moringa every day and we get a smoothie in the kids so they get their moringa and we feel good. And when we're stressed out, we tell the team, like I'll go and say, listen, I need a break. Because when you don't do that, you get sick. And in July, I was in the hospital. I had a major infection, and my homeopath said, this is the universe telling you you need a couple days off. You're not going to take them, so the universe is going to give them to you. And that's what happened. And then after that, I had to take better care of my stress level. But I think putting yourself ahead and looking back, you always look at how you handled things differently. Like, why? Why did I spend all day arguing with this person about this thing that doesn't really matter? Why did I watch the news for 2 hours and get myself all riled up about something that next year I'm going to look back and say, it happened, oh well, we all did it, we're here. You know, I wake up and feel good about being alive and feeling healthy. There is a Qigong practice of doing this when a good moment happens, to hold your fingers in that good moment, like a really elated moment. And then when you want to feel good, you press that pressure point, that meridian on your body to bring that moment back into your body. And you don't have to remember the circumstances of the moment, you just have to remember the feeling. And it's helpful, but I think mastering anything, for me, I don't believe that's ever gonna happen. I think on my deathbed, I'm gonna be like, oh, I needed to do that one last thing, I needed to mend that one last relationship, have that one last conversation, because I know that my purpose here in life is to learn lessons. I'm a Buddhist, so I know I'm having another life, and if I don't learn some lessons in this one, I don't want to be in Groundhog Day for the rest of eternity, going through my life over and over. And sometimes it takes really big lessons to get you there. Like you said, like you don't want to necessarily have this reaction or go through this thing, but sometimes you need to do that to heal something in yourself, because whatever that reaction is not the other person, it's you. So I've lost some pretty big, powerful relationships by having to heal myself in that. So I look back and say, I miss that person, but I'm very grateful for the healing. And that's all I can do. We're all human, we're all gonna screw up. And nobody's ever gonna do anything to you that you aren't creating in you. And whatever they're doing is part of their healing process and their growth or deep-rooted problem that they haven't faced. And it's not our job to make them face it. And that's a lesson I learned in a very serious friendship that I lost in the last couple of years, that I can't change people. And that's my MO. I grew up with an alcoholic mother who had a nervous breakdown when I was young, and I always felt like I needed to fix things. I never got the chance to fix her and fix us. So, sorry. I tend to do that with people, and not everybody is ready for that healing. That's powerful healing. And to learn like when you need to back off of that and just let the other person do their thing. Maybe they'll come back to that healing someday, maybe not, but try to heal yourself. And in this COVID world, it's drawing deep-rooted things for people. We're spending a lot of time with ourselves in fear of the future. And you're lucky enough to have found your next passion. I'm hoping I find something in this that takes me to something else, The truck, I'm hoping we're able to do this collaboration with Fulfill. It will be a good way to help them, and also a way for us to begin a process with the truck, because any business, whether you think you know it or not, is always new, especially right now. So I relish the opportunity to have the support of a bigger organization to help us kind of figure out the best way to do this truck and best service the community that we're in. And Fulfill has some very good programs already. Kim Guadagno's their director now, and she's an amazing woman, not only businesswoman, former politician, but amazing person. And I really like working with her, and that doesn't happen for me often because I really don't get to work with people closely outside of my team. So when you have a mentor that you've looked up to that you get to work with, that's kind of exciting for me. We have a website, Food for Thought AP. We have social media, Instagram and Facebook, so you can always message us. You can join our mailing list. We post all the time when we're doing things. We also post things about the people we collaborate with and their events. So if you're a nonprofit, you can send us stuff or ask us to share stuff, and we're open to doing that. As I said in the beginning, Food for Thought is really a vehicle to help other nonprofits and people. Sometimes people need something to do to make them feel good, and maybe they don't have a lot of money to put into charity, but they have time. Time is very valuable.
It certainly is an asset. It's one of the reasons why I created this. It's just because it's a community project. It's to bring the musicians and the artists and the small businesses and the nonprofits and kind of bring them all together and say, we started bringing this town back. It was us that did it, you know. And we can stick together and unite together. And I look at Asbury Park like a petri dish compared to the world. You know, it has all different personalities, sexualities, races, genders, you name it. And if we can figure out that formula on how to come together and really co-elevate each other, we can be that role model and example for other cities.
Yeah, let's go to Long Branch next. They need some help.
You know,